Chief One's out base area.
Copy.
Hello, I am excited to have with me Chief Master Sergeant Richard Lien, retired, as my first guest. Chief Lien served in the United States Air Force for over 30 years. During that time, he completed 8 assignments in deployment supporting Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield. He also served as my fire chief at Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany, and he was the fire chief at Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho. Chief Lien, welcome to Call Sign Chief One. Thank you, sir, so much for joining me.
Hey, Chief Russell, thank you so much. This is a great honor, and I am so very proud to call you one of my close friends.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Chief, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. So I got your bio and I've been reading it for a couple of days, just making sure. There's the things that you know about a person, right? And then there's things that you think you know, and then there's things you just don't know. And I think I found out some things that I thought I knew, and then I found out some things that I didn't know at all about you just going through your bio, So I am very impressive, of course, by the way. And I just want to go ahead and just start at the beginning maybe with you and just ask, what was life growing up in your hometown? You grew up in Minneapolis area, and I just want to know, were there any significant events or influences that helped shape your leadership philosophy during that time?
Well, thank you for that great question. It's a great lead off. Growing up, I guess I would just say average, just regular average family living out in the suburbs, out in the western suburbs of the Twin Cities area. I've got 2 brothers and a baby sister and a mom and dad that loved us and gave us just kind of a middle of the road, experience in life. My dad, big believer in leadership, big believer in promoting yourself and presenting yourself the way you want others to take you in and interact with you. And my mom was a big believer also in those same types of things, but her slant was more along the lines of you need to look inside and make sure everything is correct inside. It's not all about what you're showing other people. You got to be taking care of what's inside as well. And so I think that was a real good balance between my mom and my dad, and I love them and miss them both.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chief, for sharing that. Was it a dream of yours to be a firefighter growing up? How did you end up on the firefighting path?
Going through high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't even know what day of the week it was. The only way I knew was if it was MASH or Happy Days. You know what I'm saying? At nighttime. I really didn't know. I just didn't. And then after I graduated high school, my parents moved from the suburbs way to the far north of Minnesota, way up in the woods there. And my dad said, after we got things set up, he said, "Hey, we're both joining the volunteer fire department." I said, "What? Really?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Up here in the woods, that's how you make sure your house doesn't burn down because you're on the fire department." I said, "Okay, that sounds pretty cool." And I got into the volunteer firefighting and I really liked it. And it took off with that. And it was something that I realized that I think quite honestly and candidly, I think the average person can do this career field. But then if you want to take it to the next level, you have that opportunity. You don't need any special skills other than the desire to move forward. And so that's what got me into the volunteer firefighting thing. And I said, man, I want to take this to the next level and I want to be a professional firefighter. And it just so happens, so I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, the Air Force was really recruiting him really hard. And that recruiter was just, we want this guy. And they just couldn't seal the deal with him. And so one day my brother was frustrated with the recruiter, and they're sitting out on the front porch of my parents' home out on the lake there. And he points to me and our youngest brother. We were out just goofing around, just being knuckleheads out in the woods, right? And he says, "Don't take me, take my other brother." And he said, "Well, all right. He says, if you take him, will you leave me alone? And so I sat at a conversation, and it didn't dawn on me that the Air Force had professional firefighters. And once I realized that, oh my gosh, I was like, I want to do this. I want to put all my chips on this. And it just went from there.
Wow, that's awesome. That's good stuff. So, um, how was it? So, were you one of you seen the guys? I've been at the fire academy at Goodfellow. I know we'll talk about where you went to school and all that. So, were you one of the I'm a volunteer guys when you got to the ended up getting to the schoolhouse? Well, hey, I'm a volunteer, and they ended up telling you forget everything that you know, and
Close to that was very something similar to that, because some of the stuff was pretty similar. Hey, roll the fire hose, right? This is how you sand down an axe and repolish it and all this other stuff. And so I wasn't like, I don't have to learn this. I already know it, but I was foolish enough to say I've done this several times. Well, I quickly, like maybe day 2, day 3, realized that that is not what they want to hear. They just
yeah,
want to hear yes, sir. They didn't even want to hear no, sir. They just want to hear yes, sir, to everything. Yes, sir. I can do
wow.
that. I can
We
do that.
used
You better believe I can do that.
we used to love to give it back to the what we used to call the Jolly Volleys when they showed up to the schoolhouse.
You didn't know it.
You know what you're doing, huh? Okay, all right. Forget everything you know because we're gonna teach you the Air Force way. So
And
I don't know.
they were right. They were absolutely right because what we were doing up there was dangerous. It was reckless. It was the mid 1980s. Standards had not made their way into that world yet. And we were just doing the best we had with what we had. Then, yeah, like I say, maybe do it day 2, day 3. I was like, yeah, these guys, this is professional. They know what they're doing. And so I should zip it up and open these 2 big flappers here, and I'm going to get a lot out of this. And I loved it.
I heard that. Thanks for that, Chief. That's good stuff. So you went to Chanute Air Force Base, and it was in the winter of '86. What was that like?
Actually, fall of '86.
Okay.
I was able to get out of there right before winter really
So
honestly hit
so
in
it
Illinois.
didn't quite get cold yet. Okay. All right.
Right. But yeah, I mean, you're out there in the cornfields in those days. And yeah, it was cold and windy. And Chanute it was hopping. Golly, I was there last summer. I drove through on my way back from something, and we went through, and it's scraped clean. It's
Wow.
depressing to
Wow.
see, but back in the day, man, it was hopping. Uh, to see to march to school every day in an old aircraft hangar. There was hangar 1 and hangar 2, and I don't remember exactly what the difference was, but anyways, to march to school, and I was so proud to march, and the student leaders, I'm like, what? There's a student leader. I never did that, by the way, but I was proud of those guys that stepped up, right? And just the amount of stuff they were willing to invest in me was never lost on me. Was never. There were guys that would, as soon as they got the ability to go outside the gate, they were outside every night eating at Burger King or McDonald's or whatever, right? Not me. I was in the dining hall. I was like, and I would always tell them, they're like, well, where are you going there? So well, Uncle Ron's buying tonight. Uncle Ron? President Reagan, right? I call him Uncle Ron. So Uncle Ron's buying dinner. I'm going over. I'm having meatloaf tonight, man.
I
So
heard.
it was, I don't want to make it seem like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz or something like that. Uh, but it was borderline overwhelming to my senses. I didn't have any money. I was an airman basic. I came in as an airman basic because my recruiter just didn't really understand. He thought firefighting, the only way you could come in as an airman or an airman first class is if you were in specialized career fields. And so he just didn't know. And I'm not holding it against him. He did his best job, but so I came in as an airman basic, and seeing the Norma Brown simulator. I think it was maybe day 1, day 2, they took us on a tour, and seeing the Norma Brown simulator. And one of these days, I'm going to be one of those up and coming guys, those staff sergeants, and those tech sergeants standing around that table. And I'm going to be making decisions and moving all the pieces. And yeah, when I got my chance to do the Norma Brown simulator, I, I, I was 3 feet off the ground floating. Experience of a lifetime.
I can only imagine how impressive it was then. I know that it was very impressive when I had the opportunity to see it at Goodfellow for the first time, obviously because it moved from Chanute to Goodfellow, and it's just expanded. I think they have two bases now. I think there's a couple of different bases. Yeah, so it's just to hear that story and just to be able to make the connection to my time at Goodfellow, and of course I know that folks that are listening to this will be able to kind of connect the dots from where it started and where it is now. We've our folks that are the stewards of those bases. They do a really great job, and there's a lot of pride that goes into keeping that base up and running. So, did you always know that you so I could kind of hear you in your answer there, say that when I'm a fire officer, when I'm standing behind, did you always kind of know that you wanted to be a fire chief? Was that in your
No,
sights back
no,
then?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Obviously, early on in my career, I really wanted to work hard to master everything with that first run engine because that's where I was assigned. Mastering everything they gave me. My first assignment was Zweibrücken Air Base, Germany. So I'm working with America. And the first time I walked in, I saw these other guys in blue uniforms that kind of look like old Air Force uniforms. And then I see they had German stuff on them, and I'm like, what is it? I didn't know I'd be working with German civilians. And I'm like, wow, okay, whole new world opens up more of my brain, right? And they mentored me. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I did every job just like every other airman in the fire department. And I mastered that job. And then when my fire chief, who had just sewed on Chief Master Sergeant right before I got there, Chief Master Sergeant Wimberly, Jerry Wimberly, and he saw something in me, and so did my assistant fire chief, Charlie Carrier, and who was a tech sergeant at that time, eventually made master sergeant. And they saw something in me, and they made me a rescueman. And that right then and there, I felt as if I had found my home. Riding in the back seat, the third seat on that rescue truck, running back to the truck. I knew where all the equipment was. I knew how to check it out. I was the go-to guy, and that made me feel fulfilled because I felt that I was really now serving. Before I was just learning. Now I felt like I'm serving and I'm saving people's lives. And that felt really good.
Awesome. Chief, you mind? Okay, so Zweibrücken, first base. So you mind running us through what happened next, and the different places that you got an opportunity to go to next?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So I was at Zweibrücken Air Base. That was my first assignment. In fact, my very first shift was Christmas Eve, 1986. And it was not supposed to be my first shift, but there was a manpower shortage for some reason. I don't remember if somebody was sick or something along those lines. And so the station captain called me up and said, hey, I realized that you weren't prepared to work. Get your stuff. I need you to be at work. And his name was Staff Sergeant Edgar Jones. And I'm going to tell you, Edgar was the first black man that I ever got a chance to get to know. Marching next to somebody doesn't mean you get to know them. Being in math class doesn't mean you get to know them. Living in a fire station, you get to know him. And Edgar was probably like the mama duck, and I was the baby duck following behind him. He taught me so much. And I just absorbed as much as I could from him because he was amazing to me. And he treated me like a man. And I'll never forget him. To this day, I wonder where he is, and I hope he's doing good. So, Edgar Jones, if you're out there, I miss you. So I was at Zweibrücken from 1986 until December of 1989. Then I got to Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota, in January of 1990, and that was something that, again, that I did not expect. I'm at a small base in Europe with a small fire department. It was the aircraft there were F4s. They were reconnaissance F4s. They were RF4C models. They're reconnaissance, so they had cameras instead of guns. And they had C-23 Sherpas, little delivery aircraft for going all over Europe, like a UPS delivery system. But when I got to Ellsworth, this is my term, not the Air Force terms. Ellsworth was running essentially a Top Gun school for bomber pilots. That's what it was. I don't know what the official jargon was of the day, but there were 4 wings at Ellsworth, and we had a layer of authority of command in between that we don't have anymore, called an air division. And so there was an air division commander, and then there were 4 wings. There was a bomb wing, and there was the support wing. There was a tactics and training wing. So it was just amazing what they were doing. And those firefighters there took me and opened my mind to large frame aircraft, to big scale emergencies. Instead of climbing on an aircraft, I was climbing in aircraft. And so Ellsworth was very, very special to me. I was at Ellsworth for approximately 4 years, just under 4 years. Thanksgiving of 1993, I PCSed from Ellsworth, South Dakota, up to Grand Forks, North Dakota. So how does an Air Force firefighter go stateside? Because you don't do that. It's stateside overseas. You kind of do that. So I put my nose in the books, and I realized that there was this program that you could put in for to go to certain CONUS bases in the continental United States that were undesirable by most people. The Air Force had a hard time getting volunteers. And so I said, well, I'll go up to Grand Forks. So I went up to Grand Forks on a 5-year controlled tour. And got up to Ellsworth, and it was, instead of all sorts of bombers coming in and out, it was B-1s, it was KC-135s, helicopters, trainers, that sort of stuff. We were running a missile field. I got to be around Minuteman III missiles. And the fire chief there, Fire Chief Carl Wilkes, was amazing to me. And we ended up with a great collaboration, and 5-year tour turned into, I put in paperwork, and I got back-to-back 5-year controlled tour. And so that turned into 10, and then the Air Force just kind of forgot about me, and that turned into 11 years. And then Big Blue opened their eyes and said, wait a minute here now, this guy is, even though he's in a place where nobody wants to be, even though the Air Force Chief of Staff General Fogelman said he can stay here as long as he wants because nobody wants to go there, General Fogelman's not the Chief of Staff anymore, so you're getting orders. And, oh, by the way, you're going to Kunsan, Korea, buddy.
Yeah, wow.
We're sending you up the river. Yeah, so and I got my orders on April Fool's Day, by the way. Yeah.
To go to Korea.
2004. I thought the orderly room was punking me. I really did. I started ripping up the orders, and
I'm not going to Korea. No, you can't even stop.
Stop. These are legit orders. You can't get out of what? So yeah, so I went to Kunsan, Korea from 04 to 05. I was
Red Devil.
Yeah, when I was at Ellsworth, I started off on shift and stuff like that, and then I Fire Chief Wilkes made me assistant fire chief in charge of prevention. So I did that for a very long time. And then I was deputy off and on, and then I became the permanent deputy fire chief there. Then I went to Kunsan, and I was deputy fire chief there for a year. And that was without a doubt the toughest year of my life, being separated from my family. But I knew what needed to be done, and I did what needed to be done. And after that, I went to an obscure location in Colorado called Schriever Air Force Base. Nowadays, it's called Schriever Space Force Base. Back when I was a young airman, it wasn't even called Schriever. So it was just, it was a different experience. I'm trying to think of the name right now. It just escaped me. If it comes to me, I'll let you know. Anyways, so I get to Schriever.
So that escaped you, but what seems to have not escaped you are cold weather bases. And being from Minnesota, you were just like destined to be in cold places.
Yes. So yes, so when I left there, oh, Falcon, that's what it used to be called when I was a young airman. It was called
Receiver was
Falcon
Falcon.
Air
Okay.
Station. Then it went to Schriever Air Force Base. Now it's Schriever Space Force Base. So Schriever in Colorado Springs, that's as far south as I've ever been stationed. I was never stationed anywhere further south than that. So I got there. I was deputy fire chief there for 2 years. Uh, at the time, they said it was the most secure Air Force base in the world. I think it still is. It's set up essentially like a prison. There's like rings of security until you get to the inner sanctum there. I used to remember the U2 song where the streets have no name because there was only a few there are street names there, of course, but you didn't use them because there's only a couple dozen buildings. So
Gotcha.
that's all
Okay.
there was. So I was there for a couple of years. And then I made senior master sergeant there. And of course, that once you commit to that, you have retainability. And so, because I had retainability, they gave me the choice. I was going to Guam, and I had two choices. I was either going to go 35 months by myself or 36 months with my family. So we all went there for 36 months. And Fire Chief John Thompson there,
Yeah.
I would say, he treated me like a brother. He was incredibly nice to me, incredibly giving with his time and his knowledge, and we just made a great partnership. And I just enjoyed working for him. He was just a true joy to work for. Uh, just fun, just a fun guy, and an infectious smile and an infectious laugh. I have only good things to say about Fire Chief John Thompson. And so, mind him, I figured because Guam is kind of a dead end assignment. There's no assigned aircraft there. There's a handful of Navy helicopters that we support on the other side of the runway. There's just not a lot happening. And then world events changed, and the Air Force started doing this rotating bombers and rotating fighters and kind of playing hide and seek with the Chinese and the Russians. And then one day I'm just minding my own business, and my pager goes off. I look over towards the base, and I see this big cloud of smoke coming up off the base, and I quick get back to the base, and it was the B-2 crash
Wow.
in
Man.
2008. And so I was the fire operations commander. Of course, the fire chief was the incident commander, and he had his team, and it was exactly by the numbers, by the book. Fire Chief John Thompson did a textbook perfect of exactly how you're supposed to handle a large scale emergency. He put his staff with him in his command vehicle. He had me as the fire operations commander. And for 6 hours, I stood toe to toe with that B-2, and we fought it until every time we would put it out, it would start back on fire.
Wow.
Every time we put it out, it came back on fire. Took us 6 hours to get it out. In fact, the next day when the sun came up, the fire chief and I were parked by the air traffic control tower looking down at the wreckage. And when the sun came up and hit the right angle, the heat of the sun turned the plane on fire again. So because I had shown leadership, and I know that that's why you've got this tremendous podcast about leadership here. Leadership builds other leaders. There's an old saying of steel sharpens steel. And awards build awards. Fire Chief Thompson taught me that. Awards build awards. And so because of the great work that he saw in me, commanding the fire operations portion of that emergency, I started winning awards, and one thing led to another, and I got picked up for Chief Master Sergeant,
Nice.
which led me in 2000, let's see here, 2010, I showed up at Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany.
I remember it well.
And I showed up on, I think it was July 31st. And so I was still,
The day after my birthday, mind you.
see, well, I know what I was doing the day after your birthday. I was keeping a low profile because technically I was still a senior master sergeant.
Okay. All right.
Because I wasn't supposed to sew my chief stripes on until August 1st.
Okay.
So I went into the orderly room, signed in, and disappeared.
Wow. Okay.
And so, Yeah, that's what I was told to do, and that's what I did. So Spangdahlem was simply amazing. It was the dream assignment. It was what I had always dreamed for, and to have it as my first assignment as a fire chief was a great honor. I I could not understand why the Air Force would send a brand new chief to
Mm.
Spangdahlem, and I was very humbled by that. I was a little bit nervous, and I thought, you know what? I'm not letting Big Blue down. I'm going to give this everything I've got because Spangdahlem is literally one of the crown jewels of Air Force fire protection. Now we would say Air Force Fire Emergency Services. And loved it there for 4 years. And then my last 2 years, Mountain Home Air Force Base, Idaho. And I thought, how could I have like won the lottery twice in a row? I'm going from this assignment and I'm going to one that's equal to, and maybe in some respects even better, because at Mountain Home, they fly the F-15E model, which is an incredible aircraft, just an incredible aircraft. The firefighters, their civilian military, top notch, absolutely top notch. And to come in behind Chief Tim Rickard, who I knew from Guam, to come in behind that, that's an honor right there. Now you talk about pressure, right? I can't let this thing fall down after one of the best fire chiefs our career field has ever produced built it, right? So, but Mountain Home was unique because Mountain Home is the host to, it's the code name, working name is Peace Carbon 5. So the Singapore, the Republic of Singapore, their Air Force is there.
Okay.
And that's where they do a lot of their training. And I got to bond with the Republic of Singapore Air Force and host them to my house and go to their parties. It's
Wow.
amazing.
Wow. I
Amazing.
did
So
not
that's
know.
30 years in a real quick.
Wow. Now, just amazing. You touched on a couple of things, so I'll go back to the gentleman that you mentioned, and you said that he was the first black person that you got the chance to know. I can relate to that. Um, I grew up in Chicago's inner city, and of course there was tons of folks that looked like me, and if you didn't look like me, you probably were a cop, right? Or or coming to fix something in somebody's neighborhood. But at the end of the day, the diversity that we have in the Air Force, and actually the Air Force has been getting this thing right for many. We were the first of the services to
Yes. I'm proud of
desegregate.
that.
Yep. So there's so many different things that I'm thankful that I joined the Air Force for. But one of those things is being able to come in and be seen as a firefighter, being able to come in and being seen as a teammate right off the bat. I think we do it. Of course, we have our exceptions, but I think we do a very good job at bringing everybody in and saying, "Hey, look, you're a part of this team, and you're going to be judged on how you take care of business, right?" And so yeah, I can relate to that because coming in, I did have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I thought like, okay, who's out to get me? Who's messing with me, picking on me? And, I just like to think that the times when I did probably feel like it was maybe something else. I learned no, it's you and your attitude. You fix your attitude, and then you're gonna have a good time. And I think when I did kind of fix my attitude and started moving a little bit different, I have you to thank for a lot of that. The doors to the Air Force just opened wide, and just all the keys just started getting thrown at me. So yeah,
See, that's just it. Is you're right. We have done it right. We were the first, and I'm proud of that. We were the first to desegregate. Segregation in any form is wrong. I don't like it. For me, when I say the Pledge of Allegiance, those last 5 words, liberty and justice for all.
yeah,
I mean them, and it all means all. It doesn't mean people who look like me,
yeah,
pray like me, or talk like me. Liberty and justice for all Americans,
yeah,
for everybody inside the big red, white, and blue tent. That's what I want, and that's what I fought for.
yeah,
The I tried to always judge everybody by what I saw with my own eyes, what I heard with my own ears. I could care less what they did a year before I got to somewhere.
Yeah.
So and so did this and so and so did that. I don't care.
Yeah.
What? You don't care? No. I'm judging that person by what I see. A wing commander asked me, because the wing commanders love to come and visit the fire station for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's a lot of really cool toys. Number two, they're bewildered. We don't get to use that word very often. They're bewildered by a flight that has no officers. The fire chief is the flight commander. No matter how you want to play with fancy words and you want to spice it up or smooth it down or whatever, who is the flight commander? The flight commander is the fire chief, whether that is a high-ranking civil service fire chief, like a GS-12 typically, or a chief master sergeant in our cases. And I had a wing commander, I won't use his name, but he ended up, he recently retired with 4 stars, and I was very proud to talk to him about that. And he asked me, and he says, "Hey, Chief," he says, "I got to ask you." He had just been selected for his 1st star. And he asked me, he says, "How come when I interact with your firefighters," he says, I interact with hundreds of airmen on the base every day, but every one of them who has a fire, he says, I can spot him a mile away with a fire badge." He said, "It's not just the badge." He says, "Why does every one of your firefighters have a king size," and that's the clean words, those are not the exact words he used. "Why do they have a king size attitude?"
Yeah.
And I was ready for the answer. I said, "Because I cultivate it in them.
Mm.
I cultivate them to have a king size attitude." And he said, "Is that healthy?" I said, "You're a fighter pilot. You know that's healthy, because each one of those firefighters has to be prepared for whatever they're going to encounter when that alarm goes off. What? Hey, is it just some little kid at the base library who pulled the fire alarm? Okay, maybe it is. Maybe it's somebody at the dormitory who, whatever, and they bumped into the, something on the wall. Now the fire alarms are going off. But maybe it's not. Maybe this is the big one. And whatever that is, on the other side of that door, metaphorically, when I kick down that door, I've got to be able to beat it. Okay. When I was a young airman in Germany, one of my first emergencies, I was blown out of a building. Okay. There was a boiler on fire in an old dormitory left over from the Canadian Air Force in the 70s. Okay. And it's on fire. And we're ready to make entry. Okay. And the crew chief on my vehicle opens, we're all ready to go, opens the door, backdraft, boom. Okay. I was blown out into the street. They put me out, picked me up, put me right back into the fire, right? That never left me for 2 things. First of all, everybody in my life that I love, because of that, I always, when I'm done talking to them, I always tell them I love them. The other thing is, you've got to be prepared for what's on the other side of that door, because if you're not prepared, it'll kill you. So metaphorically, the dragon, okay? That dragon that's on the other side of the door. Is it a fire? Is it a hazmat? Is it a little kid who's got his head trapped in a swing set on base? Whatever it is, right? You've got to take it and you got to win, because you can't call 911. We're the only people who can't call 911. We have to solve every problem,
True.
right?
Yep.
And once I realized that, it never left me. And that's what I always tried to cultivate in the team that I had, that I was blessed and trusted with to lead the team. It was like being a coach of a major league team, right? You got a team of all-stars. And if your team's losing, we all know it's
Yeah.
because of the coaching. We all
Yep.
know it.
Yep.
But
That's
when they're
true.
winning, yeah, it feels good.
No, I love it. I love that, Chief. You were so talking about your deputy fire chief days. You were, I have I did the math, is over 6 years. What are your thoughts on? And I know I heard you speak very highly of Chief Thompson, which most people do. He's a legend in our business. But what are your thoughts on followership, and specifically like what it takes to be successful as the person in the second seat, um, or maybe even more subordinate than that? What does it take to be a successful follower, um, from your point of view?
Well, Fire Chief Thompson asked me one time, he said, something, I'm paraphrasing now here, but something to the effect of, I really wish you could run like this school for people on how to be a deputy fire chief, train people how to be good deputies. And I really took that in the spirit in which it was given of, you're good at this, Rich. I want you to make other people good at it because it's a tough job. Because really the deputy is nothing more than the big brother version of the station captain. They're the two jobs nobody wants in the whole fire station. Nobody wants either one of those jobs. What
True.
kind of fool was to put themselves between a rock and a hard spot? Because you're getting pinched. Everybody below you is pissed off at you and grouchy, and they're pinching you, and then the fire chief's pinching you with his expectations. So, with that in mind, the advice I would give to answer your question spot on direct, know your place. Now, you say that in the year 2026 that we're in, some people, careful with talk like that, mister. No, 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 no. Know your place. Your place is number two. Your place is right at the side of the boss. And I don't care if it's fire or whoever you're talking about now. If you're the number two person in the organization, your place is not down the hallway, bad mouthing number one and being the leader of the opposition. Well, if it was up to me, we'd just sit around all day. But you know, the fire chief, he wants us to clean the trucks that are already clean, right? What kind of support is that?
I'm
What kind of
laughing.
loser?
I'm laughing because I know I know it. I've seen it. I know it. So yeah. So that's why I'm laughing because I've heard it. I've seen it. We've been through it. So yeah. Wow. That's
So
something.
when I was deputy fire chief, right, and I would call in assistant fire chiefs, station captains, right, and we'd close the door and we'd talk, and I would make it very clear. The fire chief is the one whose neck is on the line with this. He's the one that holds that fire officer 4 license. And oh, by the way, running a fire department is just like in those movies where you got to turn 2 keys to launch the missile type of thing. It takes 2 fire officer 4s, right? So there are literally 2 people qualified to be fire chief, but there's only 1 fire chief. And the deputy, the number 2, needs to know his spot. And his spot is to stand. And I would always judge myself by this. If the fire chief were to have a hidden microphone or to walk in right now, would he catch me being disloyal to him? Because if he caught me being disloyal, he has every right to chop me right there on the spot. So that's why if you think back to our time together, I really, really stressed how important it was. And to be loyal, to be part of that inner team at the top, that leadership team. And you know what? Maybe the deputy made a decision that the fire chief didn't agree with. Well, I know what it felt like to have the rug pulled out from underneath me. So when I became a fire chief, I said, I'm not going to do that. I might disagree with the decision the deputy made, but I'm going to back him up because he made a tough call. And so I can't think of a single time where I went and just pulled the rug out from that person. We may have discussed it and said, nah, maybe, after a while they did some reflection and said, maybe I could have handled it different next time. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, that's good stuff. So Spank Doll, I'm just thinking back to my time there when we first met. You just got there, and I just remember a ton from that time. But just to wrap up a few of the things that I remember from that time with you, good order and discipline was huge, right? Being late was a no. Like I think it was an LOR if you were late. I'm pretty sure it was an LOR
I'll tell you
first.
that. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that right now. So in my
yeah,
30 years, okay, yeah, I got a chest full of medals. I got all the
yeah,
stripes they can give me.
yeah.
You know what? I'm actually put up in my mind mentally. One of my greatest achievements in 30 years, I was never late for work once.
Wow,
Never.
wow.
I always came to work excited, ready to work. Oh, yeah, there were times I got to work and I realized that I forgot something, but I gave myself enough time to go home, get it, and still get back to work before roll call.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, if your toes aren't on the line when the deputy calls the station to attention, you're late, which means now somebody else doesn't get to go home. That's
That,
wrong.
that's true. No, yeah. I remember that. I remember obviously the zero tolerance policies were non-negotiable. Accountability was huge. Chiefs chat. I remember Chiefs chat. I started doing them myself. I was doing them as a master sergeant. I was doing them as an assistant chief, as a deputy, as a fire chief, and I got that from you. I must admit, you were the first fire chief that sat us down regularly and deliberately developed us. And there was some good stuff. I remember Jeopardy. I was playing the Jeopardy game.
Jeopardy, Jeopardy.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it was a lot of good discussions. And sometimes our commander would come down and join. I remember the status of discipline slides. When you'd show us all of the things that other folks were doing and getting in trouble for, and it was kind of some scared straight moments. Like, oh wow, if you were doing some of those things, that was your warning to kind of cut it out before you ended up being on that list. But um, Minnesota days, those were big. When every Minneapolis or no Minnesota State birthday, we had some kind of event going on where you can win prizes and
1858.
up. And definitely spam was a big winner if you won the cans of spam or some of the cereal. Those were big. You had Mondays, movies and motivation. We did PT every day. We did push-ups, sit-ups, and a run every day. I think the only day that you didn't do push-ups, sit-ups, and a run was either you were off duty on ops or or it was a Sunday. I think or you were off duty on Saturday if you worked 8 hours. So, but if you were at work and it was Monday through Saturday.
I still do Air Force PT every single morning
Yeah.
before I go to work.
Wow. Wow. That is something. And then I remember the papers, the development papers, but
Get it?
I'll bring up, not everybody was happy during that time at Spangdahlem. You had a system. I will say that you came in and you told everybody the way you did business on day one. So I don't believe there were any surprises. You told everybody kind of how you operated and what your expectations were on day one. But I will say that as the culture started to change there at Spangdahlem, yeah, it was a lot of heartache. My question is, how do you lead? And there's probably some people that still today that have a little bit of heartburn or get scared and terrified when they hear your name. There was a gentleman I was stationed with at Scott. I won't mention his name, but he's a good guy. But he was with you in Guam, and when he found out that you were my mentor, actually, he found out. I'll tell this quick story for those who may be watching. You had a picture of a chief. I believe it was Chief Sherrill in your office. I had no idea who Chief Sherrill was. I would come into your office, and your office was obviously set up like a museum. I don't think there was a piece of white space on the wall. It was just something to see. And what stood out, there was all kinds of things in the office, but what stood out was a very kind of a small picture. It wasn't very large, of this man just sitting, hands crossed in his uniform, just looking. It's like he was staring into your soul. I never knew who that was. I'm like, is this
He
his dad? I
was.
didn't know who this guy was. So I asked you one day, I said, Chief, who is this guy in the picture? And you said, oh, this is Chief
That's
Sherrill.
the
He's my
meanest son of a gun I ever worked for in my life.
He had the old stripes on with the two stripes up top. The third stripe was at the bottom, right? So he had
Old
the
school.
old chief stripes. So you told me who he was, and I was like, wow, um, that's I think that's kind of how you are, how you are. Before I got ready to leave, um, my going away, you gave me a picture, and you wrote some kind words on it. It was a picture of you in your blues, and that has been a staple in my office ever
Well, thank you.
since.
Thank you.
So when folks come in to my office, and this one gentleman that was stationed with me, Scott, came in and he saw that picture, and he almost had to go to mental health because he was that terrified. He's like, "Oh my God, this guy's got a picture of Chief Lien in this office. I'm dead. I'm dead." And so he still survives, and he's still a Scott. He's still around today, but he made it through. He made it through with me. He's a good guy.
Glad
He's
to hear that.
did a lot of
Because
good
that
work.
was always my goal. I always hated losing anyone.
But I bring that up to say that that when you have folks that are not necessarily kind of on board or seeing things the way that you see them, how do you lead and persevere through that? When you are doing what you believe is the right thing to do, but not everybody sees it or buys in. As the leader, how did you persevere through that and just stay consistent? Because I know you have to feel that, right, when not everybody's on your
Yes, you
side.
do. You sense it.
Yeah,
You do sense it. And thank you for your kind words and the lead up into that. And it is true. And I do get asked every once in a while about that topic because it's somewhat controversial. So what I realized when I every fire chief who comes in to a brand new department has a full set of almost like an old school volumes of encyclopedias. They've got to sign all these management plans and SO standard operating procedures and things like that. They've got to sign all these things, right? So usually there's a rhythm, and that is they need to be updated. They need to be modernized every couple of years. And that's when what you have to do when you're the fire chief, right? Well, what I found was right off the bat, according to everybody I talked to, there was only like 3 people in the whole fire station who were literate. The rest of them were functionally illiterate. They couldn't read, they couldn't write. Somehow they made it through high school, college, basic training, fire academy. They tested for promotion. Oh, I don't know how to read or write. Okay. You're telling me that you can't do that when I know you can. So let's work on some basic skills and let's get everybody's skills up to where everybody can contribute to the mission, not just 3 people rewriting hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, right? Let's spread the load out, right? And that was my only, and I mean my only purpose in doing that was the deputy fire chief can't just disappear for 3 months while he's trying to rewrite all these things.
yeah,
It's got to be farmed out, and each
yeah,
NCO is going to have to do something,
yeah.
right? And that was my only purpose in doing that. And by bringing everybody up to the same level and getting the like muscle memory, hey, let's get out and run. Let's do some lifting, right? Let's get the memories back in shape so we can all contribute and be professional airmen who know how to read and write. Okay. And so that's the first part. That's the lead in. Okay. That's the why. Okay. And I made that very clear, but some people didn't want to listen to it, and that's okay. You tune it out. But how do you lead when you're unpopular? Well, you're either going to be right or you're going to be popular, but rarely are you both. Okay. And so you have to go back really honestly to the NCO Academy,
Mhm.
the Hersey Blanchard method of telling, selling, participating, delegating, right? And what do? You got to figure out, are they willing and are they able? And you got to figure that out and you got to dial that in and you've got to move them through those stages and knowing that although it's painful, it's part of the forming or forming, storming, norming, performing, all those 4 blocks till we can get up to where we are a high performance team. And I will point out that when I left Spangdahlem, first of all, I was brought to Spangdahlem for a reason. And it wasn't because I asked for it. I was brought there because the senior ranking active duty military fire chief at the time wanted things at Spangdahlem to move along from where they were. They were kind of stuck in time. And he wanted Spangdahlem brought a step forward where it could be. And that's why he selected me and plugged me in there, the career field manager. I'm not sure the proper term right now today, but that's certainly what it was, the career field manager for us. And he put me there for a reason with a mission. So I was sent there for a mission. I wasn't just sent there to just ride.
Yeah.
And so I will point out that what we did is we went from being average to winning best fire department in the Air Force, which contributed to best base in the Department of Defense,
Mhm.
and all within a span of a couple of years. And so, not because of me, I don't win the awards. So, President Eisenhower, when he was General Eisenhower, said, there's, I'm paraphrasing, there's no limit to what you can accomplish when you give other people credit. Okay. And the lesson behind that, as he went on to teach his staff, is that the team's successes, you give the success to the team. The team's failures, you take and you bring that to you. That's your failure.
Yeah.
You've got that team of all-stars.
Mm.
And if the all-stars aren't winning the game, that's the coach's fault, not the player's fault. And so that's why I, to this day, will say the team we had, they won that award.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. That's us. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Chief. I appreciate that perspective. Um, I will say I'll get a little bit personal on my side. When I think back to my time, I was cool, quote unquote, right? I wasn't really leading the way that I needed to be. I came in, I did my job, but when it was time to leave, pop smoke, and I was out partying, whatever it was, was going on, and I just wasn't ready yet, right, for this leadership thing. And then I made Master Sergeant, and when that happened, you not only pulled me close, but you have been available over the years. And this mentorship piece is huge. I was going through a tough time I was doing my time at Minot, and I enjoyed my time there, but you know the weight of the responsibility and all of the things that come with being not just the fire chief, but a chief master sergeant. And I just felt really kind of worn out and beat up around the time. And Courtney, my wife, had mentioned to me, she said, you talk to all of these people and folks are calling you, and it's dinner time and you'll step away from the table to help somebody with something. And I hear you talking about all kinds of positive things to other people, but when is the last time you called your mentor? And she knew I was struggling. And I said, okay, yeah, you got a point. So I picked up the phone and I called you, and you probably could, I don't know if you remember this call, but you could probably sense like, what's going on, man? And I told you kind of some of the things I was going through, but really the gist of my conversation was, I'm tired and I think I'm done, and you basically, in so many words, told me, hey, look, okay, all right, I get it. Job's hard, but listen, you're a chief, and a chief is all in all the time. And then you also knew that I wasn't that far away from 30. And you were like, and by the way, you're going to get 30. And so I thought, I was going to get some, hey, man, if it's time, go ahead and get on out. There's all kinds of good stuff you can do on the outside. And it was like, hey, man, hey, slap out of it. Snap out of it. You're chief, and the chief is all in all the time. And by the way, you are going to get 30. And here I am today, right? Brief conversation provided me some fuel that I needed, and it got me. I think it helped to get me the rest of the way. The mentorship piece, like I said, is huge. What do you look for? Because I think there have been many times throughout my career when I can say I don't know what other folks saw, and don't just make it your answer. I don't want you to just make it about me. But what do you look for when deciding whether somebody is ready for greater responsibility, whether somebody is worth that extra time that you are maybe taking away from your family, that you're maybe staying late at work because they need it. How do you gauge that? Is that something that everybody gets? Is that something that select few people get? How does that work?
Yeah, I think I benefited from being able to study some of the best, to study underneath the best that our career field ever produced. And working for Chief Sherrill out at Ellsworth Air Force Base I felt like I was in almost like a prison. It just felt that way. It was just like, wow, man, things were moving quick. Bam, bam, bam. And I started wondering, why did he escort some people out the door? And why did he retain other people? Because I couldn't figure it. I was like, these guys are kind of interchangeable, right? And then I started picking up on characteristics. And I started seeing things that the way he saw it. And then it started making sense to me. So people that, first of all, people who assess themselves, so self-assessment, okay? Now, you and I have the benefit as chief master sergeants and fire chiefs of having taken dozens and dozens of those self-assessments, right? Those big, long questionnaires. And then you figure out, okay, what kind of person am I? What are my characteristics? But what they don't tell you is, who am I? That's a big difference. What am I? Well, am I a leader? Am I a follower? I'm a delegator. I'm an explorer. All those different cool terms that are out there now, right? It tells me what I am. It doesn't tell me who I am. So what I would look for is I would look for things in people who knew who they were and who they wanted to be in the future, because that was the journey I was on. I had built Airman Lien. I built Airman Lien. But I wanted to be Sergeant Lien, and I wanted to be Sergeant Lien in a bad way. So there were 3 sergeants that I worked underneath. And I took something from each one of those 3 best qualities of those 3. One guy's uniform and discipline was spot on. One guy knew every tool on that rescue truck. He knew how to break it down, put it together, and if it didn't start, he knew how to find another tool that could do the same job by hand. That's the guy I want to know. The other guy knew all the air packs, all the pressures, all the hazmat, lower explosive levels, high explosive, all those things that goes along with that. So I took from those 3 guys the best that they had, and I built Sergeant Lien. And once I did that, I was like, now I realize how easy this is. Looking back over my shoulder at the folks that I was going to mentor and teach, that I was trusted with, those were the ones, if they knew who they were and then who they wanted to be, that's the person. Now I'm going to spend time with you, and I'll tell you exactly what I saw in you. And this picture shows it all right here. You don't know about this, but it's this. Now, what do you see?
That's
Right?
us. That's us. That's us
That's us
repelling
at
us
Bengal.
out.
I'm coming down from the air traffic control tower. Okay.
Yes.
14 stories, they tell me. Okay.
Yep.
Now let's look at it again. Now I want you and your viewers to take a deep look. I want them to, obviously they can see mine and your face today in, January 2026, right? Look back at this now, and now look at these 2 faces and look at the expression on the 2 faces. One's grinning like an idiot. Okay. The other one is like, I don't know about this. Because you're right. It was when you were selected for Master Sergeant. Okay. And we were talking about, in Chiefs Chat, we were talking about doing things we weren't necessarily prepared for. Okay. And I was talking about running up the top of the air traffic control tower, tying a knot and jumping off the side. Right. And I sensed in you, I think the proper term is being a little trepid. Right. She's like, hey, this is dangerous stuff, right? This ain't no joke, man, right? You fall from this height, you're going to die. No, you won't. I guarantee you're not going to die. And so that's how I knew to invest in you. That's just one metaphor with me and you, right? So for other leaders that might be watching, assess those people on your team. And the ones that you can get to do things to improve themselves, okay? Those are the ones that are worth investing your time in. Answering that phone call when they call at 9:30 at night and you're sitting on the couch with your sweetheart having some popcorn, watching an old movie or whatever, right? Or maybe you're doing something, playing a board game with the family, and you're like, oh, I got to take this phone call.
Yeah.
And so those people are worth investing in, because someday they're going to fill your shoes. There are no indispensable airmen. Every one of us will be replaced.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. I appreciate that, Chief. Thank you so much. So we're getting ready to hit our 1 hour mark. So that's going to give me time for one more question with you. So I guess let's see. So I'm going to go with two because I want to hear your answer to this, but then I also kind of want to know kind of what you're doing these days. Well, what do you think? What advice would you give to those airmen out there today? Because this isn't just a podcast for leaders. This is also a podcast for those who may think in their minds, you know what, I don't really see myself as a leader, but maybe I want to be, right? For that young airman that may think, you know, might be nice to be a fire chief or a chief master sergeant one day. What advice would you give those young airmen today who chief master sergeant and fire chief is so far down the line for them right now, but maybe there's that glimmer of hope and that thought in their head and that seed maybe is planted. What advice would you give them if they choose to continue down this path?
Well, boy, that's a great question, and that you could go on and on for hours on that
Yep.
topic, as you know. But I'll try and keep it as tight as I can. Um, in my career, uh, I was told I would never go past master sergeant. I was I was never in the popularity club. Uh, I was almost always not included, one of the outcasts, for many reasons. And being told, "Hey, you're not going to make it." Okay, got it. And I started to believe that for a little bit, right? Because it took me a long time to make staff sergeant. That was painful. Um, that was really painful. It was a lot of self-reflection. I went and spent a lot of time in the woods, reflecting on things and really communing with my Lord and asking what more can I be doing, you know? And that was a very spiritual time for me. And I'm very thankful for what I went through because it made me who I am. And it gave me the confidence in myself and to stop listening to other people and to listen to myself. Because if I would have listened to them, I would have just done 20 years and retired as a master sergeant. So, knowing the formula for success, I could give you a big long list, but let's just go with that. What is the formula for success? Hard work plus loyalty equals success. I know you remember that from our time at Spangdahlem together. Hard work plus loyalty equals success. Translated, a person who's coming to work and giving me all he's got or she's got and does not want to give up. That's hard work. There'll always be a spot on the team. It might not be the position you want, but there'll be a spot on the team because you're working hard. Okay. Loyalty. Loyalty to what? Loyalty to me personally. The military doesn't function that way. That's dangerous. That's very dangerous. For me, it was loyal to the Air Force. I never lost sight of my loyalty to Big Blue. I put my faith in two things that never let me down. My faith and the United States Air Force. Neither one of them let me down. I let them down. Many times I let them down. Many times I did, but they never let me down. And that's a fact. So with that in mind, success. For some people, success is money. For some people, success is promotions. For some people, success is having the relationships you want. Mm-hmm. In this context, yeah, it's really about moving up the line, moving up the ladder, and showing the decision makers who you are and that you can be trusted to move up. Promotions are not reward for what you did in the past. We'll give you a medal for what you did. Mm-hmm. Promotions are a gamble on future success. All promotions are future looking. Yeah. Medals and awards are backwards looking.
Wow. Thank you for that, Chief. That's powerful stuff. Last thing I got for you. Hey, I'd love to know how are you continuing to lead today? I know you're not done. I know you are out and about doing something, right? I remember you're very big with the Boy Scouts. What can you share that you're doing today to continue to help out in your local community or our Air Force?
Well, thank you. I I do genuinely feel blessed. I feel like I've won the lottery. I'm here. Many of my friends didn't make it. I lost a lot of friends along the way. Uh, Cancer, accidents, um, just bad things happened, and I lost them, and I feel bad. Uh, but I'm here, so I feel like I won the lottery because I do genuinely feel blessed. And so to squander those gifts and those treasures would be wrong in my heart. That would just be wrong. So I would always tell you, if you think maybe back to Chiefs Chat, I would talk about being that well-rounded airman. The taxpayers expect us to be well-rounded airmen. Don't volunteer at the animal shelter if you don't like picking up dog poop, right? If you don't like picking up dog poop, then don't volunteer at the animal shelter, right? So, so I enjoy helping out with scouts. And so I continue with that. I'm a
You're like a
leader with.
four-star general, like with the scouts, like today. I know you were like then I thought you were so you got to be like the top dog in the scouts
Nope.
right now, right?
Just
Something
I'm
like that.
just a humble volunteer leader. So what I do is for the last several years I've been involved in the National Youth Leadership Training Program that Scouting has, and what that does, just real quick to the point, is it's almost as if they took a couple of really good pages from the NCO Academy, and they're giving it to young leaders,
Yeah.
15, 16, 17-year-old boys and girls, and giving them those leadership tools that typically we would teach our brand new NCOs. And I'm an adult leader with that. And what's cool about that is I'm just a mentor for the youth that are teaching other youth. And so I'm just a mentor and a resource for them. And I really enjoy that. I have a job with the Veterans of Foreign Wars in
Okay.
my local community. I work there as a gambling manager, and I'm very proud of that because we're able to raise hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to donate to what I kind of call the triangle of veterans and elderly and youth. Almost all the money goes to those three things, and I'm very, very proud of what we've been able to donate and how to change people's lives with our donations. Very proud of that. That's what a gambling manager really does, by the way. And then the other part, again, you're walking through life and just something happens. And my wife and I were out to dinner with another couple, and I saw this lady, lieutenant colonel, and her three kids come into this restaurant at about like 7:30 on a cold Minnesota night. And she's in her OCPs, okay, the current camouflage uniform that we wear. And there typically isn't anyone in my community that's connected with the military, certainly in a uniform, let alone a lady with three children. So a chief is all in all the time, right? I can't stop being Chief Lien, right? So I set down my food, put down my wipe my face, put down my napkin, and I calmly walk over to the booth and I introduce myself. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing? Do you need assistance? Are you traveling through? Were you in the middle of doing something and something went wrong? Because we don't see something like this in our neighborhood. And one thing led to another. And she said, I am the local commander of the ROTC detachment in this area. I said, well, congratulations. That's a big responsibility. That's awesome, ma'am. I'm very, very proud of your service and what the mission that you're doing, because you're making a big difference. And she said, thank you so much. And she kind of figured out who I was. And she said, you know what? I've got a lot of folks that come in and do things, but I don't have a chief master sergeant. Would you come in from time to time and be a guest speaker and a briefer? And I said, well, absolutely. I said, that's part of my mission. I'm active duty. Even though I'm no longer active duty, I'm retired. I'm still drawing pay which
Yeah.
means I'm subject to the UCMJ,
True. Yeah.
Article 2.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I said, it is my responsibility to assist you with your mission, man. Every chief needs a commander, and every commander needs a chief.
Yeah.
So I've been assisting with mentorship and leadership talks with local Air Force ROTC cadets. I got to be at one of their graduation activities, commencement, if you will, where they got their second lieutenant's bars pinned on them last fall, and I'll do that again this fall. And I was very, very proud to do that, to represent us.
That is awesome, Chief. It's so good to hear that you're still out there providing positivity and great leadership to our airmen and to folks in the community. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. It means a lot to me that you were my first guest. And I just wish you and the family the very best always. I just want to say thank you so much for all that you have done, not just for me, but for our Air Force and for our country. Wow, I don't have enough words. We've been talking for about an hour and 10 minutes, and there still aren't enough words to. This interview could have gone on for probably 3 hours, but I will say thank you so much. I look forward to continuing to be in touch, and you're always welcome to join me on the podcast in the future if you ever have the time and you want to talk about some other things. I'm gonna always keep a spot open for you.
Well, thank you, Chief. I wish you all the best with your podcast. I will say you are the absolute right person for this. You are the absolute epitome of a modern Chief Master Sergeant, Fire Chief. You are a chief's chief, and you're an airman's airman. And you made it. And you made Chief Russell into really part of the new Mount Rushmore of great leaders that our career field has made.
Wow.
And that's the truth. And because you did it not for yourself, you did it so you could help those other folks who maybe needed a little extra mentorship, maybe needed a little hand up, not a hand out. I know that's an overused cliche, but it's true. It matches in this time. You did it for them. And I'm so proud to call you my friend. I'm so proud of what you've done. And I just wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Chief. I appreciate you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir. And we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you so much. And thank you. You have been listening to Call Sign Chief One, my guest, my friend, my chief, Chief Master Sergeant, retired Richard Lien. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Chief One's out, base area.
Copy.